When did you realize your child's second family wanted to be their only family? The day my ex-wife's new husband legally adopted my 8-year-old son without telling me, and I found out when my kid accidentally called me by my first name instead of Dad, because that's what his stepdad had been teaching him to do. After my divorce, I had joint custody of Jake, every other weekend and Wednesday dinners, just like the court ordered. My ex-wife Lisa had remarried quickly to some guy named Mark who worked in finance and lived in a McMansion across town. At first, I was actually relieved that Jake would have a stable home environment. Mark seemed like a decent guy, and Jake talked about him positively during our visit. Mark taught me how to throw a curveball, or Mark's taking us to Disney World next month, but slowly, things started changing. Jake would mention family traditions that didn't include me, like their annual camping trips or Christmas morning rituals. When I'd suggest doing similar activities during our time together, Jake would say, "We already did that with Mark." The comments got more pointed. Jake started comparing everything we did to how Mark did it. "Mark's car is newer than yours. Mark's house has a pool. Mark makes better pancakes." It felt like I was constantly being measured against this other father figure. Then Jake started forgetting our plans. He'd show up for our weekend visits, but seemed distracted, constantly texting Lisa about what Mark was doing. When I'd ask about school or his friends, he'd give one-word answers, clearly wanting to be somewhere else. I started noticing that Jake would come back from Lisa's house with new clothes that I'd never seen before, expensive sneakers, and gadgets that I couldn't afford on my teacher's salary. When I'd compliment him on something new, he'd always credit Mark for buying it. The most painful part was watching Jake's excitement drain whenever he had to come to my small apartment. He'd walk in looking disappointed, like he was being punished. Meanwhile, he'd light up whenever Mark called during our time together. Looking back, there were so many red flags I ignored. Jake stopped bringing homework to my place because Mark already helped me finish it. He'd decline invitations to my family gatherings because Mark's family is having something too. Even his school emergency contact forms listed Mark's number first, then Lisa's, with mine somewhere at the bottom. The adoption bomb dropped on a random Tuesday. I was at work when I got a call from my lawyer saying that legal papers had been filed. Lisa's husband was adopting Jake, and somehow they'd gotten around needing my consent by claiming I was an absent father. I rushed to pick up Jake from school that day, planning to ask him what was going on. That's when he looked at me and said, "Hi Tom, why are you here early?" Not "Hi Dad," just my first name, like I was some family friend picking him up. When I corrected him, Jake looked confused. "But Mark said you're not really my dad anymore since he adopted me. He said it's weird to call two people dad, so I should just call you Tom now." My heart shattered. I realized Lisa and Mark had been systematically erasing me from Jake's life while I focused on being the fun weekend dad. They'd convinced my son that their family was his real family, and I was just a leftover from his mom's past. The legal battle took 2 years and cost me everything, but I got the adoption overturned. Jake lives with me full time now, but it took months of therapy before he started calling me dad again. The hardest part wasn't even winning custody back. It was rebuilding trust with a son who'd been taught that loving me meant betraying his other family.